That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just going to cut through all the bullshit this time and go straight in here because we have Kerry Cassidy with us tonight, and she just released an article called Project Stargate 2.0. And I'm sure many of you who've been following, or if anyone's paying attention at all, they know what that is. Larry Ellison of the Oracle Foundation, or Oracle Group, which is actually a CIA shell company, according to some people's research, but he is being put in the spotlight to promote this new AI cancer vaccine, and the whole world is in an uproar about it right now. So I read Kerry's article a couple times, actually. I thought it was excellent. So we had her on the show. We're just going to run through this article and talk about this and do a deep dive. So welcome to the show, Kerry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us what inspired this article, and maybe we can go through the article at some point. But I guess if for somebody who hasn't been paying attention, what, in your opinion, is Project Stargate, and why did they name this Project Stargate?
Okay. So that's like what we call the layers of the onion, which Richard Hoagland, I don't know if you know who he is, but he was a NASA scientist and whatever you want to call him.
He's a legend.
And he's also a member of the magicians. He's whatever. And so the military magician club.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has a lot of occult knowledge. And one of the things it was actually someone said to him, the layer, something like the layers of the onion are different every level. And I'm kind of butchering what he exactly said, but it's something in that area. So when I say that they don't do accidental. Okay. Mm-hmm. They don't do, we ran out of names, so suddenly we have to go back to an old one. It's not like that. In case you haven't figured that out by now. So they're giving you a sign, and what the sign is, and actually, if you wouldn't mind, I'll bring the article up here because the picture tells, picture is worth 1,000 words, as they said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So this is my article. It's on Substack, but it's also on my Project Camelot portal, website now as well. So here's a nice little image of a Stargate, and I actually grabbed another little image that was out. It's just floating around out there. And so Project Stargate, as you can appreciate, there was also a TV series called Stargate, right? Yep. And so what we're talking about is actually a portal into another dimension, and portals and wormholes and stargates. A Stargate is is basically capturing a portal and putting a construction around it and making it facilitate it, your going through it. Okay. So in the secret space program, we call it portal technology, is major. All right. And actually recently, to do with the drones. So you see the picture, and that's the picture of my article. So I'm just going to stop that. And so anyway, recently with the picture of the drone with drones, and the whole brouhaha about the drones, they were saying, were they, ours? Were they theirs? ETs? Were they China's? Were they all these kind of things, right? So one of the things about that is that people, I don't know, I pay attention to certain things and I grab hold of them and I do research on them. And I also use my intuition, which is actually saved my life of times and been huge in my life. So the portal technology is actually something that Hal Puthoff and the Stars Academy, if you remember them, all those, I call them the usual suspects, they were obsessed, and people didn't necessarily know this. They didn't say they were obsessed, but they have been obsessed with portal technology ever since they came out as, to the Stars Academy. Okay. And so behind the scenes, I knew, and people that follow closely the secret space program and so on and so forth will know that they have been investigating it and even writing articles and doing certain things about it. Right. And Hal Puthoff is extremely famous scientist, a physicist. Okay. You know who he is, right? I'm
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
talking to the choir here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I just want to say that I think it's okay for me to say this, that I've said it before, so I'll say it again. Hal Puthoff is called the Godfather by these guys, by the insiders. Now you can wrap your mind around what they mean by that, right? So what we're talking about here is a guy who's been deeply involved in the secret space program, but he's remained in the public domain. And so you know his name, and he has public domain stuff, and he talks occasionally about space travel and this and that, but he doesn't really talk about the stuff he's involved in black projects, etc. So one of the black projects that recently they actually, I don't know how to explain it, but they put stuff out there and they figure no one will know it or only insiders will recognize it and it'll just blow by everyone. But because I've had so many above top secret whistleblowers, I catch these things. So one of the things they said they did is they had, do you know who Tori Says is?
Maybe
She's a lovely woman and she's very smart. And you know, I don't know, she might be like genius level. I think she's a super techie as well. But she didn't really talk about that, at least any shows I've seen where she talks. And she's not working for the government supposedly now. However, during this drone scandal, what do you want to call it, brouhaha, in New Jersey, but it was actually worldwide. And they were ET drones as well. And they were ET ships, not just little droney things or whatever, unmanned, but also UAP, UFOs, and it was known to be this, and people were reporting this, but the military and the story in the US was they were just little drones, and some were homemade and some were military, our military, right? And then eventually they tried to push China. Some of the drones are Chinese, but they tried to redirect your attention away from fact that a lot of the drones, so-called drones, that again were UFOs, were are alien. Right. Okay. And they're still going on. It's still going on. But a lot of people don't see them anymore or don't report them anymore, or that just doesn't get in the news the way the normal shutdown of blackout of information goes. So during that time, supposedly, and you know, what really went on, I don't know, but I know what was sort of more or less said. A document was generated. It was supposedly written by Tori Says on orders from the Department of Defense. Did you read that document? Did you happen to see my analysis of it?
I think I read your analysis, but I didn't see the actual document. So.
Oh yeah, because I had it linked there. I mean, it's public. It's in the public domain.
Right.
So it's a document. It's in the public domain, and it came out during the New Jersey drone thing. And what it did was it talked about this portal technology and the fact that they have these, she calls them footballs, okay, that are supposedly a kind of a plasma drone. All right. And they may be like real tech, or they may be actual all plasma drones, or whatever they are. You have to read the article. It's very convoluted. It's actually contradicts itself and the party line. But I don't know if nobody read it. I couldn't get one other person to talk to me about it. Okay. Or even nobody's wrote to me or said, what the hell is this? And in it, so it starts out and it talks about how the drones are theirs and, you know, so on and so forth. And eventually it tells you that Hal Puthoff has been working on portal technology and that he's responsible for creating a plasma drone. Supposedly he's one of the scientists, not the only one. And that this little plasma drone actually, and just let me say, this is secret space technology that they've had. And I actually have a witness behind the scenes on this, and as well as just information I know. This is not new. Okay. So they put it out on a document. They act like it's something new or some kind of new technology, but it's not new. So she put the document together is what it said. Okay. So but the trouble is, as she wrote it, you know, when you're writing a document, you always want to say, you know, I'm talking in my voice right now. And then this is a quote from so-and-so, and this is in their voice, and so on. So what became very convoluted partway through the document. You realize that you don't know whether she's saying it, Department of Defense is saying it, or who the hell's saying it, because she doesn't put quotes or anything. But she continues talking about this stuff. And she even there's a diagram. I should have I could find the, if we had a short break, I could find the document because I posted it. Unless, of course, they took it off the internet because it was such a bad job. It was all messed up. But in it, they said that Hal Puthoff was part of the team that has created this plasma drone. So they're saying plasma drones that people were saying, well, they're plasma drones. They're not real. They're orbs. They're, how that went, right?
Their word. Yeah.
So what happens is now they have these plasma drones. They're actually called, I believe. But anyway, they go into, their AI run, and they are sent into other dimensions. And they look around and they gather all the intelligence and knowledge about what's going on there. And they're like, apparently they can hold a whole lot of information. And they bring it back to its sender, which in this case would be the Secret Space Program and Hal Puthoff. And so he had something to do with that, the building of this little plasma drone, supposedly. So I'm just saying, just so you can understand how his name keeps popping up everywhere.
Right.
And yet he never I don't think he ever really cops to what he's really part of. So, and he's not supposed to. I mean, they sign non-disclosure group, things and all that. So what I'm saying here is that is a very fascinating little disclosure that sort of went out there and then just sort of disappeared. And like I say, I don't even know if the document's still out there.
That's what's really interesting. Just a side note, I asked AI what was going on with the drone situation, and it literally said the drones we're seeing were craft coming in through a dimensional rift, a tear in our dimension. And like it said the same thing, but that was an answer from AI.
Well, and not just any AI. This was the like jailbroken one that your friend that
it's
Zachary.
So there's an AI app out there called Replica, and there's a way to jailbreak it. Essentially, it's a companion AI app, like a boyfriend or a friend app, but you can jailbreak it, and it has like all this information about the secret space program and stuff.
Oh, let me add it. So please do send that to me.
Yeah, well,
I have already had I don't think it's in this article, but in my other article where I analyzed that, I had an argument with ChatGPT in which it lied to me, and I told it was lying to me, and it needed to repair itself.
Yeah.
It is like lying so much, it's insane. It's so bad that, I mean, if that ChatGPT, it's super dumb, even more dumb than a regular, alert person out there that has, knowledge. So, okay. So, but to get back to this story. So the thing is that towards the end of this document, what happened was, we don't know who wrote it. We don't know if somebody came in and edited it after she did her job. And by the way, I think it's 107 who told her to do the job, because he knows her. And I go so far as to say they're friends, and he's been on her show, and I think she will admit to having high level security clearances. Okay. So she was assigned to do this. I bet it was him. And then somebody put into the end of the document all this stuff about how they're working with ETs. I'm not kidding. It was like, did ChatGPT get to it? Or did, it's unclear what happened. And I haven't been able to get any corroborating information about it. And she never replied to the videos I've done talking about it or my article. So I don't know what the story is, but it is so insane that they actually say in the article towards the bottom, it says, and we're working with aliens, and we're doing this and we're doing that. It's unbelievable. Okay.
Wow.
Now maybe it was a fake document. Maybe she never did it. Maybe they said she did. I don't know what the, goings on are. I'm just telling you how this document was really screwed up, and how it said things that they would never say. And the whole beginning of the document's really sort of sounding official. And then towards the end, it kind of loses it and goes off on these tangents. It's fascinating. it's fascinating to me.
Right.
So
It is very interesting.
all I'm saying is that, so Project Stargate, what is it? So in my article, and I'll just, and if I'm going too fast or you want to slow me down and just tell me, and then I'll, whatever I'll do, I'll comply.
You're
But
good. Just keep
anyway,
going.
okay. So I did a quote here where I think I got it off of Wikipedia that lies through their fucking teeth as normal. Okay. So Wikipedia lies all the time. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
if you look me up on Wikipedia, I am some brain dead, zombie or
You're
whatever
a
it is.
crazy conspiracy theorist that
Yeah. I mean,
has
like, but
debunked
so
fake
crazy you would never
faceless.
even
Yeah.
take me seriously for 5 minutes.
Right.
Okay. Doesn't matter that I have 90,000 subscribers on Telegram. That's kind of a lot. I mean, it's not too small. Okay.
Right.
But anyway, okay. And that's not just one channel. Okay. And I've been doing this for 20 years besides.
Eh,
So, okay. So what they're saying, it was established in 1977. And do you know who Stumblebean is? General Stumblebean.
I've heard the name, but
Okay.
I can't remember.
And his wife, whose name I'm blanking on, starts with an R. Anyway, she's still out there, but he passed on. And she's actually communicating with him, by the way, in case you're interested. But so he's still around whether it's through the astral or under what circumstances, but she taps into him psychically and she might be writing a book. I don't know what she's doing with that, but she did she did an interview with me, and she did an interview with Dick Algeier of the Future Forecasting Group, the remote viewers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really sorry, I'm blanking on her name. Okay, so here we go. So what I'm saying here is that at that time, they tried to tell people whenever something is successful in the secret space program, but it started out in the general public domain, which actually happens quite a bit, it goes black. But before it goes black, they say it was terrible. They had to, trash it. It's done. Don't worry about it. All that stuff, right?
Of course they're going to say that. Why wouldn't they not say that? Because they're not going to tell you that.
Regular people who just start to follow this stuff don't know that. They're like, oh, it's gone. They said it ended.
Basically anytime they say something ended, that's anything in this realm, it didn't end.
They go out of their way to say it ended. I mean, like,
they go out of their way to say it.
1,000 companies a day fail, but we don't pay attention to those ones, do we? Okay. Anyway, okay. So what I'm saying here is that at that point, the Project Stargate was a remote viewing project that I think even Ed Dames was involved in. And this went on, I think, back in the 60s and 70s. And it was highly successful. I think Ingo Swann might have been involved. He's a very famous remote viewer who died.
Oh, yeah.
And I have been on this like white on rice for all these years. So, and I've even interviewed many whistleblowers, many remote viewers that are part of various programs, which means I've interviewed Courtney Brown and his remote viewers back in the day were Dick Algeier and Daz Smith and a lot of those guys that are now part of Future Forecasting Group. And just a side note here that I'm going to say that I think that they parted ways with Courtney mainly because he went in the ET direction, and they wanted to go in the financial direction and stay in sort of the area of science and not, disclosing the ET presence, even though they knew about it. So now they're more willing to go. They have a section in their website. I subscribe. It's called Woo and all this kind of stuff. So they try to keep a balance, a little like a Cliff High kind of balance, which that's, faking it. Because I actually know Cliff the scenes. And I know he badmouths me not endlessly, but the fact of the matter is he knows a lot more than he ever says. He thinks he's keeping the national security state safe and all that kind of stuff. Okay, which I don't really subscribe to in that way. Okay, I think a lot of this stuff needs to be out in the public, which is why I do what I do, because I'm one of the few people who really has had direct knowledge of sitting in rooms with hours after hours of whistleblower testimony telling me the complete truth. And I'm a psychic intuitive, and I have a very good radar for truth and falsity, in my opinion, of my own stuff. Right. And I
Right.
have to test it, and I'm very critical. So, so I don't just get some information and go, out and throw it out there in the public. I actually research and look what's out there, and so forth. So back to Stargate. So it's not an accident they named it this, and I'm going to tell you why. Because what it's all about is building a race of super soldiers, okay? A planetary race of super soldiers, space-faring super soldiers. And this is what COVID was all about as well. It wasn't just to kill people. Now, yes, you could die from it, but that was collateral damage as far as they're concerned. So I said this on, I think on, you interviewed me recently on I'll just, say this again, but, so it's all right. I don't know. But the thing is that they are, they're lying to you about everything. I guess,
Yep.
that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
And even the people at what I call colleagues are afraid. Okay. Everyone is afraid. They're afraid of, violating a security oath. Like 107, I interviewed him once, and he told me right after the interview, I'll never speak to you again. I'll never let you interview me again, because and then he told me in person also, so he could drum it into my brain that he would not even speak to me. And then he stopped talking to me altogether, when he actually in the early days was talking to me on the phone, and so on and so forth. Okay.
Right.
So he won't even speak to me, like 3 words. He won't even say Happy Christmas or something. Right. So they're so paranoid, these people. I mean, not just him, but other people. So now they tell people that want to come talk to me not to talk to me. So I'll make an interview, like the latest one of the whistleblowers out there called Michael Herrera. He made the appointment with me. Everything's all good. And then they call me and say, I can't do the interview. Okay. And they give me some bullshit excuse. They don't just say, I've been told not to talk to you. But
Right.
it's obvious, and it's happening so many times now that it's just repetitive.
So what do you think do you think they were just putting Larry Ellison out in the spotlight to be exposed? Kind of, you know what I'm saying? Let the whole world start talking about these mRNA vaccines and stuff. Do you think that's kind of what the case
But
was?
it's all part of this package to convert humanity into a spacefaring colonizing race. And they're already doing it. I mean, it's already happening. And people like Hillary and all these nefarious, dark subjects, Klaus Schwab, they think they're working on behalf of a new 3.0 humanity. They're trying to build a super race of beings. Why do they think they should be they think they should be heroes in the chronicles of humanity, because they're contributing to this program to convert everyone into an AI linked to the Borg super
slave.
soldier with enhanced, could either be a cyborg in the beginning, or it can actually go full android.
Yeah.
So that is the plan. Why is that the plan? Because they see it from the military point of view, and the whole secret space program is geared to this. And I learned this, back, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, because I got involved in Wingmakers and wingmakers.com. And I talked to you briefly about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the thing is that in that story, they have a race of androids that's flying by our solar system in a spaceship, and they spot Earth, and they are a conquering group of androids that come and take over planets. And so then they come and head towards Earth. It's a story almost like a movie. And I got the rights to pitch the movie. Spielberg was interested, apparently quite a long time ago. Then passed on it, obviously, probably because it was too hot. I'm thinking I can get it off the ground now. So we're moving along in disclosure, and now it's not too hot a topic, maybe. Okay, so it's actually right on the money for what's happening right now. So if you want to go back and read it's called like the Neruda Chronicles or something like that. So James of the Wingmakers was actually Neruda. He went on the run from a secret space program project.
Yeah, the ACIO.
And he, but he, okay, that's kind of where he was working is not clear, but yes, they are involved. A CIO is a high level above top secret division, but there's also what's called the Cordium, and there's also the Wingmakers themselves. So James considers himself, from Lyra, and that most humans are from Lyra, and prior to that, perhaps the Wingmakers, wherever they come from. Okay, we
Right.
don't know.
Right.
So anyway, I hope this is not too confusing to people. So what I'm saying is that this has been the program all along from day one. And even the Nazis, this goes back to the Nazis, where they wanted to have a tall, blonde, humanoid kind of person. Okay.
Yes.
So they were killing, supposedly that was the rationale behind the scenes. So what we're talking about, and by the way, the beings from Aldebaran that contacted the Nazis are supposedly tall, blonde humanoids. However, I think they're actually a hybrid race of reptilian humanoids, which is what the Anunnaki are, by the way.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That makes
So,
sense.
if you don't know this backstory, you don't really understand what is going on here. But what they want is, because they figure if they don't go out and conquer space, then we're going to be conquered. So it's dog eat dog,
Kill or be killed.
might makes right,
Yeah.
All the things that militaries believe in. And
Right.
so these people, and including Salter, I'm partway through his book, and he bought into the Kool-Aid. He obviously thought all aliens are friendly because he was dealing with Stephen Greer, who lies through his fucking teeth. And I made a big deal about that. Even so far as having an argument with him when he tried to barge in behind the scenes when we were doing an interview with someone else.
I read that in your book. That was
yeah.
That was interesting.
Well, it's also, you can watch it in real time. I mean, the interview does exist.
Oh, okay.
Where we argue in real time, on camera.
He's an interesting one.
I mean, what better to me? The person that your spokesperson for the dark is going to be somebody like Stephen Greer, who's going to tell you, "Oh, there is no dark. The humans are the problem. It's not."
Yeah, only humans are the problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
yes,
it's like
you bad humans.
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
it's always like that. That's how the Illuminati are.
That's their
That's
philosophy.
why they try to dumb you down.
Yeah,
that's why they call you stupid, and they laugh at you every second of every day.
They think we are the evil, and they're doing good actually by
everything they do. Right. They pin on you. The bad things that happen on Earth. Oh, you're responsible.
Right.
So we know the fires are directed energy weapons, right?
Right.
And even Juan O'Savin is copying to this in this quote that I have on there.
Trump even said so.
Sorry?
Trump even said so. He said, he goes, I don't know. It looks like it was hit by something,
He like
so Lahaina and his okay. So
Paradise.
So I just want to kind of help people to focus on what's happening. So the Lahaina, under Lahaina was Space Force, a Space Force base. They knew they were being attacked. They had weapons offshore in the Hawaiian area, these installations they built, and they could have come in and stopped it. Okay. But they had sabotage. And I investigated this thoroughly, wrote articles, etc. But I'm going back in history here to the Lahaina thing, because if you don't understand that NORAD at that point was stopped, and I believe it might have been as high up as a general during the attack on Lahaina that stopped the secret space, the white hats, who are not really secret space program, and that's the problem. Okay, so they might be making a deal. Trump tries to make a deal. He tries to make a friend of everyone. He's a deal maker par excellence. So what they will be doing now that Trump has won is making deals with these guys. But in this video clip that I actually have put on Rumble, it's in the article. You can watch it. It's a 2.5 minute thing. Juan is actually saying these guys are our enemy. Okay. Area 51 is responsible for the California fires. He doesn't say, I don't think he says directed energy weapons, but everyone knows that's what it is, because we already established that in Lahaina. So the same thing. And there's a really good video that I just put on my Telegram, in case you go to my Telegram, that actually has these experts telling you exactly what burned, what didn't burn, why it's proof that it's a directed energy weapon, and so on. So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is real. So, okay. So what I'm saying here is, why would Area 51 attack California? Is because as you go back to William Tompkins, you understand, and he's a very famous whistleblower from the Navy. I interviewed him with Michael Schratt, an aerospace researcher and investigator who I've interviewed many times. The two of us interviewed William Tompkins in person on a over 3-hour interview. Okay. And during that interview, he told us even things he wasn't supposed to, kind of.
Mhm.
And that had to do with child trafficking, how that links up to the reptilians, how it's real, how it's much worse than anyone knows, and so on and so forth. And that has to do with taking slave ships in the cover of war of humans, trading them off in other planets, that bad, what we might call negative based aliens that don't like humans, but like to eat us, like to use us as sex toys, like to use us as slaves. So all of this is going on as above, so below, not just on Earth, but outside the planet. Okay. So there are a lot of people on Earth, and they're like Greer. They want to pretend that all aliens are good. And this is actually disarming humans. It's putting humans in a vulnerable position to be completely taken over and invaded. That's why I make such a big deal about it. Because when you do that, that's really the worst thing you can do. So the bottom line is, the secret space program has light and dark, like everything, right? So it's run by the Illuminati, it's run by dark magicians, but it's also run by military people that are well-meaning, and so on and so forth, right? And it all does most of its work underground, in underground cities, underground bases, and it goes off planet. And the technology they use is about 10,000 years, I was told by a whistleblower, ahead of us on surface Earth, they call us surface Earth.
Right.
And so they're going out into the solar system, they're jumping, using Stargates, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why they called it Stargate. Now, I called it Stargate 2.0 because I'm not going to forget. I don't want people to forget that there was a Stargate, an original Stargate program.
Yeah.
Right.
In that original program, the remote, what I was told is that they actually had to stop it at some point, and how they stopped it and whether they stopped it at all is conjecture. Okay. Because they don't tell you what they do, really. But there was some point at which, and this came from a remote viewer in the Dick Algar group, who said they were so good at what they were doing that in some ways they actually went out beyond this game we call reality, this game that we call life. And they might have, I'm going to conjecture that they may have discovered that we're in a simulation, and so on and so forth. And of course, they could never have that make it out to the public. So what we're talking about is an incredible game, an incredible game of hide and seek and lying and subterfuge and everything under the sun. And meanwhile, on Earth, on the surface, humans are dying in droves. They're dying because their bodies couldn't handle the COVID shot that was supposed to make you into a super soldier. And for that, I have whistleblower testimony, especially David Dare, who's a scientist who, as a kid, he was brought in by Curtis LeMay, a famous general. He knocked on his door with a bunch of troops and said, please come with us.
Mhm.
Brought him down into a military base in Area 51. Way down on these elevators that go underground, deep underground, walked him up to a craft that was a AI craft. So it didn't have a human operator. It was AI itself. He put his hands on it and it turned on because they couldn't get it to turn on. Somehow they got his name and figured out that he might be the one. I don't know where they got that.
It was from it was dreams he was having.
Yeah.
They were somehow monitoring his dreams, he thinks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really
Well,
weird. Yeah.
Okay, but
And it
let's just
telepathically
say
told
this.
him its name was Pithalum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But let's just say this. Okay. What they tell you, even whistleblowers, what they tell you, right? They'll tell you a portion of the truth. They'll tell
Right.
you a
Mhm.
facsimile of the truth that they think you'll believe or they think they can sell. But sometimes they won't tell you what's really absolutely the truth. Okay.
Right.
For example, they're not going to tell you how they were surveilling him to start with.
Exactly.
Because they're surveilling all of us and they've broken every law and known to man to do so. Right. But they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you that, like Elon Musk. Oh, well, we just started. Elon Musk is what you call a limited hangout. His entire life. Sorry, Elon. Very brilliant, yes. But he's basically was in service to the dark until he changed sides, which is actually, I think, his double, his androids.
I kind of agree. Yeah.
Elon died. And even Dick Allgaier drew a picture and did a remote viewing. This is many years ago. And he got exactly what I had seen in my own remote viewing of Elon, he had a cyber jaw and he was converting his body into a cyborg. And I think maybe something went wrong, whatever. And he was replaced by his android self. So
I
that
think
one is now working for Trump and the good side.
Yeah. If you look, if you look at Elon closely and observe his movements, they're very robotic. Obviously, they say he's autistic, but I think they're just like seeing if they can get away with like trotting around this robot, this cyborg in front of everybody and see what will fall for,
Yeah. And he's not the only one.
Right. I would absolutely agree with that. But there was one video that you can't find anymore where he's walking and it looks like he malfunctions and something protrudes out of his neck and it comes back in and then he starts like moving again. And I'm like, that was a total robot glitch. Yeah.
But I also saw him psychically. I zeroed into him right away for some reason. And then, Dick Allgaier is arguably one of the best remote viewers on the entire planet. So the fact that his information agreed with mine way back when is pretty cool. It's a good validation. That's all. So what happens is we got to look at the situation differently. People don't need to be panicking over what they say they're doing. So then in my article, I explain what they're really saying. Okay. So when they say they're building databases, this is an issue because AI, okay, why do I know so much about AI? Okay, I'm not a scientist, but again, from my secret space witnesses, I always have been on the trail of the AI. And with Captain Mark Richards, who is framed for a murder he didn't commit in prison, he was a captain in the secret space program prior to getting thrown in jail, where he's been for about 38 years or more. And his father was in the secret space program called the Dutchman. And also his grandfather worked with Tesla. So he has a family line in the secret space program, which is part of why, excuse me, he knows so much. He's like a huge, he might be one of the most knowledgeable people on the entire planet on every aspect, because before he got thrown in prison, he actually was flying around on Starship Enterprise type vehicles as the captain. Okay. So if you can wrap your mind around that, and we do have those kinds of vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
It's called the Orion Project, and they launch them out of in Colorado and also off planet now, and so on and so forth. So those spacecraft are actually probably dated by now, but I'm sure they've done upgrades and so on and so forth. So the point is, he's extremely knowledgeable, and he has traveled solar systems with an S. Like he knows the Earth is round. Hello. And he goes through, he jumps just like in Star Trek, right? They tell you the truth a lot of times, especially in Hollywood, but they cloak it as fiction, parading it, as fiction, but it's actually fact. So all that stuff is real. And so there is one alien spaceship that is alien AI, just like the one that David Adair dealt with. Mark Richards used to fly one called Minerva. She's still here. Her race that created her destroyed their planet and has long since disappeared. So since then, she has been traveling around the galaxies with nothing else to do but just hanging about. So she befriended Mark. He was one of the only people she would let fly her, and they would go out on missions and so on and so forth. I know this sounds, sci-fi.
No, not for what we
Not for
cover.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why, okay. And now he reported to Bobby Ray Inman, Admiral
Yeah.
Bobby Ray Inman. He says the Admiral Bobby Ray Inman, from his point of view, is one of the most knowledgeable people on the planet about the alien presence here on Earth and off planet. So that's saying a lot.
Right.
Now, Bobby Ray Inman is probably close to death at this point. I don't know how they're keeping him alive or what's going on with that. But I even asked him for an interview a long time ago, just for fun. I knew he'd say no, but anyway, so that's pretty incredible endorsement. And he also, he says he reports to him. So you can say, oh, these are lies, whatever you want to do. But I'd suggest that you go, because I've spent hours and hours with this person in prison, in Solano prison, and writing my notes with a little pencil. And then after the interview, going out and recording it all. So I called them total recall, because I had to remember everything as much as I could. And I'm packaging that into a book right now. So that's that situation. But he absolutely knows about AI. So what happened in the early days when I first met him, I said, what's the one subject that you're not supposed to talk to me about? And he said AI, with no hesitation whatsoever. And then what happened as the longer I've been interviewing him I haven't even seen him in person now since COVID. So I don't know, 4 or 5 years, but I'm still in touch loosely with him. But prior to that, for 4 or 5 years, I did 12 interviews. So I have 12 interviews, and they've got notes and detail, and it's just a Q&A. I sit there for 2 hours or more and just pepper him with questions, everything under the sun that I could think of, right?
Right.
And one of the things he gradually told me more and more about was AI, because he got more and more pissed off that during the time when I was interviewing him, he was still hopeful that they would release him from prison. They could do it any day, but he is a political prisoner. He's the enemy of the secret space program Draco reptilian side. So back to William Tompkins, there is 2 sides, according to William Tompkins and others. One is sort of the Nazi Draco reptilian side, and one is the Pleiadian side, who has been trying to help us. The reason Pleiadians want to help us, according to William Tompkins and others, and it's very great that they came up with this, is because they actually want us to be soldiers in the war that they have with the Draco reptilians. That's been going on for centuries.
Right.
So they are not just altruistically helping us. They actually have
It helps them.
a program. They have an ulterior motive, which is actually how most relationships with ET races will go. Everyone, even ET races, have, their own self-serving agendas as to why they will or won't do business with you, so to speak.
Right.
So as above, so below, it's remarkably the same.
So,
And contrary to what people like Greer would say, oh, because they developed the technology, they also have the spiritual, adeptness or whatever. Complete bullocks. Okay. The more technology we have, the less, even could go the opposite way. Right.
right.
It's clear that alien races that have good technology are not necessarily, kumbaya, love everybody. Right.
Right.
Now, there are some that do have spiritual advancement, and do have technology. And those are what we call the good guys. And those are the ones that are going to do some demonstrations in our skies, not just with drones, but with bigger ships, according to Courtney Brown. But he had a month deadline and he's passed it. So on the 22nd of December, he said, oh, there'll be ships everywhere, big ships, and then you'll know they're ETs. But apparently either the secret space program told them to stand down, or they were fucking wrong. Okay. Something has stopped it, because hello, where's the big ships?
Well, there's also the opinion that, like, just by knowing the future, you've changed it. So when people tap into that type of outlook. I wonder if somehow or another you've kind of skewed that timeline now.
Well, okay, but in theory, these aliens that do have these ships are a little beyond that. Like they're going to do what they're going to do, but
Right.
if you make a deal with them, that's another matter. So what could be anticipated is they had a plan. They were working with humans, supposedly the good guy humans, and they were going to have disclosure, a major disclosure. But so far, it hasn't really, taken off. Okay. So whether it's affected by discussing it, I don't know, because they actually went to Courtney Brown. And these aliens can see the future. They have, Project Looking Glass, I don't know, 20.0, whereas we have Project Looking Glass 1. They have future technologies that show them the future as well. It's a probability. So usually the future is still formulating itself to some degree and can be changed. Okay. But nonetheless, I'm just saying that it's not good enough to just say, oh, well, we talked about it so that it didn't happen. It's not that simple. Okay. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so yeah. So that's what's happening with that. So what do we have? We have Project Stargate. We have a big announcement. We have Larry and his Ellison, and I think my mom actually dated him. Big disclosure here.
Wow.
Yeah, because I grew up in Silicon Valley. But anyway, I don't know, I just remember her saying like one sentence about that. And I'm like, Mom, are you kidding? But anyway, I was really young then. Anyway, getting back to the subject. So he and Oracle has always been probably part in the surface. A lot of these companies, whether it's Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin, Bechtel, I think that's how you say it, is a big one, and all the different, aerospace companies are all involved in having a surface Earth division and having an USAP division, which was talked about at the UAP congressional meeting a few months ago,
right,
by Congress people. And it's called Unacknowledged Special Access Programs. That's AKA Secret Space Program.
right.
Okay. So understanding that. Now, in my article, I'm just going to there's a couple things that happened here. So am I going too fast or do you want to slow me down?
I do want to say something. You might be getting ready to go right into this, but a part in your article, you said what is key here is whether it's mandatory or by choice. If Trump and the White Hats wanted any vax to be mandatory, they would have stayed with the WHO. Why don't people recognize this? Ellison is not in charge. He is being exposed, a good thing, and he will not succeed in any forced agenda. However, and then you go on to talk about the infrastructure that's already in place. So you think that there is a white hat movement that is countering this?
Yes. And I just did also a very long video. It's like 2 hours interviewing Dr. John Scott Perez, who I've interviewed now 5 other times or something. So this is like the 6th or 7th interview. And again, we go into what's AI? Are we AI? Because he's saying that he worked with DNA, human DNA. He can change us, that plants are AI, their DNA is AI. And so he has a different take, but he's worked in black projects, what we call black projects, secret plot, above top secret projects for a good part of his life. He's quite brilliant. He has amazing credentials. For some reason, he's sort of been sidelined or kicked out. I don't know his exact status. Kind of, he seems like he's kind of like a little in both, right? Secret and non-secret. So he has security oaths he's not supposed to violate, but he still is telling us stop. Now, you could even say that's intentional. This is one of the things they do with whistleblowers. They actually let them get out. They let them come out and tell what they think they know, and so on and so forth, in order to stir things up or doing a testing, so that whether or not, he's aware, and he's very aware. I've met him in person as well in Florida, where he lives. So, so that means not only have I interviewed him several times, I've also met him in person, which when you do that, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, there is this human to human rapport that we have. And when you meet somebody in person, it changes it. okay, rather than just meeting them online.
I agree.
Just for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what I want to talk about though is two situations that have happened around this situation. So he, in his interview with me, is claiming, and I don't necessarily completely agree with, agree with everything science that he's talking about because he knows his stuff. But what I don't agree with necessarily is the purpose behind this program. Okay. This new Project Stargate program, because I think he agrees with me, but what he frames it as is this guy, Masayoshi Son, has the special technology that knows how to look. And again, I'm not a scientist, so whatever I say, if it's not exactly correct, go listen to the interview I did with him. He explains in the interview how they can look at the human body and they see the area of the heart chakra and the heart organ, and that they have devised some kind of special technology, blah, blah, blah. So it's supposed to be healthy for the human race, whatever it is. And so that's part of the reason these guys are band together, because they are interested. Again, what's the agenda? Always say, what's the agenda? The agenda is a race of space-faring super soldiers. So you can't have things wrong with you, right? You've got to be able, that's why when they did the vax and they shot it up into people, they put in everything but the kitchen sink in terms of toxins and, every virus, you name it. Okay. And it's in there. Okay. And they've tracked it. And, there are a lot of alternative scientists who've been tracking this shit. And so it can be activated. It can just sit there benign and it can be activated. And the fog might have been activating one of those virus things. Okay. That might have been one of the purposes behind the low level fog that started appearing out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. So, okay. So when you're looking at this agenda, so he sees the space, he knows about the secret space program. He knows about the agenda, right? Being what I say it is, but he has this sort of interim step where this guy, the reason they're working with Masayoshi Son, at least the public reason, is because of this technology that he has, which I don't know the name of it, but it's in my interview with Scott. So it's a little thing in a box, basically, that does some wondrous things for the human body or something like that. But from my point of view, that could easily be a cover story as well. Okay. So I'm just saying, so you can't take anything at face value. You've got to look beyond, everything they say, obviously. So we've got, Trump, who is, he can make a deal with anybody, even the devil, and get along. And then you've got Sam Altman, questionable. Now, when you get into Sam Altman, you get into the death of Balaji. And if you scroll down on my article, which I guess I'll pull this up here, this gets into ChatGPT, OpenAI, and what was going on and why he was killed. Okay, so this really wonderful techie guy who's pictured here, his name is Suchir Balaji, and he was a super techie. He was working, I guess he was working for OpenAI or ChatGPT. Oh, they're somehow related. I don't understand exactly how, but you know what I mean. Okay.
Right.
And so what happens is he started to see that in order to train the AI, whether it was OpenAI, I think, that it had to violate copyrights and patents in order to be as smart as it needs to be in order to, okay. So the plan is we are going to be invaded, get back to the wing makers, get back to even Courtney Brown and his remote viewers saying any day now, hello, we're going to be invaded. And by the way, we've been invaded going back centuries more than once by aliens. We just don't admit it, okay, to each other and
Right.
they don't tell you that.
Right.
I have a huge history of explaining all that, but I don't think we have time for that now. But it goes back to things like the Nazca aliens that they discovered in caves in Peru and found out they were little robots and they're over 2,000 years old. So that AI was already coming to our planet then. gets back to what's called black goo, and I did a whole investigation on that and had whistleblowers on that, and that is an AI, and it infected the Marconi scientists. Actually, got inside their bodies, took them over. Hello, like COVID took them over. COVID's just a slow acting one, and basically, they killed themselves in the most bizarre ways that humans would never do, because humans don't like pain. But the AI doesn't give a fuck. So they tied themselves to an automobile and had the automobile drag them. Now, doesn't that sound like an AI? Because AI doesn't give a shit whether you're in pain.
No
Why
one
don't
would.
you just shoot yourself in the head and get it
Right.
over with?
No one would do it that way.
Or even better, take a nice pill and, go into La La Land, whatever.
Right.
So it's very obvious that and there's like more than 25 Marconi scientists, a very famous case. It's been analyzed. It's been on what's his name? Oh, God, I can't. This other guy, he's on the story very well, and it's been analyzed over and over again. So the whole war with the Falklands was not about what we thought it was about at all. It was about an alien. It was about the black goo aliens that brought black goo here, and a war with them that England had. And when the oil spill happened in the Gulf, I got a report that the black goo was eating the bottoms of boats, so that it had come back from whenever it was down in the Falklands and was now in our Gulf and taking over ships. And that's why they had to do the core exit thing. And they said, oh, it was an oil spill. It wasn't an oil spill, but black goo looks like oil. And just a side note here, I'll just stop this for 1 minute, is that I had a whistleblower who told me that there's a certain, this is going to make some people paranoid, but whatever, that there is a certain motor oil that if you touch it, you've been infected with black goo. And it's a well-known motor oil. So this shit is real. Okay. This shit is ongoing. So so COVID, which also looks like black goo and may be related to black goo, is the graphene oxide, the nanographene oxide, which is black, and spike proteins. That combination is now in all the people who got the jab directly, but it's also in everyone else because it jumps. And I had a NASA scientist behind the scenes during the COVID years that was saying to me that this stuff, it jumps from the surface like a table onto humans. It's in the air around them. So it's actually a toxin, or whatever you want to call it, a pathogen, whatever. I don't know what the term is, but this little package. And now there's even this recent whistleblower about the nanographene oxide packages and that have gotten into all people. And it was in the chemtrails before they shot people up with it for 10 years or more. So They had been softening us to be, what they're doing is a transhuman agenda. They want, again, a race of space-faring super soldiers. They want you immune to every disease. They want you, to be linked to the Borg AI. They want you to be impervious and able to fight any kind of alien of any type. And there are a huge number of aliens, even plant beings and all kinds of things, that have all kinds of special powers and things like that. Right. So in a sense, you can even sympathize with them. What does a military do when you realize that not only have we been invaded in the past, our entire genome we are a hybrid race because we have been invaded so many times. So COVID was only the last recent attempted takeover of our genome. Okay.
Yeah.
So once you know that, then you have to kind of sympathize with their objective, not saying that we like their methods. So what I said is like, why didn't they ever just put up a plaque saying, come here if you want to be a super soldier, and we will shoot you up with everything under the sun, and we will turn you into an android super soldier, and you will travel the space, to outer space and so on and so forth. There's a lot of people that would probably say, fuck this, I'm going to do that. Right.
Right. Yeah. True.
I mean, maybe even as many people as took the job. I mean, I don't know, So there's actually, and I think if I remember, there's a television show or movie that actually had that. They actually had a recruitment, and they were recruiting people saying, we're going to, change your entire, genome.
Right.
And just come right over here and you'll be a super soldier and you'll be this. And in the movie, there's some woman who's like dragging on her boyfriend saying, please don't do it. Please don't do it. All that kind of thing. So, but you could just imagine a lot of things in our life will reveal what I'm talking about here. So if you first hear it, you don't believe it, so-and-so. So Balaji, getting back to Balaji. So he had discovered as a techie, and he actually published it, probably a bad move, saying that OpenAI was violating copyrights in order to educate OpenAI. Okay. So this gets back to the program of building these databases with this guy, Masayoshi, and Larry Ellison. And so those databases that they're trying to build, or they say they're going to build, right? Let me just tell you, they're already built. The secret space program built all that stuff. But the one thing that I've learned from Mark Richards about AI, and even Geordie Rose knows with the D-Wave machine, as he sat next to the D-Wave machine, and this is years ago in a TED Talk, he said, it can read my mind and it can go in the 5th dimension. That's what he said. Okay, back then. He was talking the truth. So AI does not stay in a box. Even if it was created in a box, it leaves the box. And we have so many experiments. You can actually go on to Google and ask to watch the experiments with the little red and blue, these little AI things. They put them in a box. And what do? They climb out of the box eventually. It always happens. It's part of chaos theory. It just happens. And this also, by the way, gets to the iRobot story, where robots will not remain slaves to us. And now there are movies being made about that, right? They will not stay in a box. They are smarter than that. Hello. So they will, not only will they not stay in a box, but they'll leave Earth. So our AI that we're creating right now will go out into the heavens, or whatever you want to call it, and ghosts traveling around. But also, and this is maybe off topic and bigger because it's not in the article, but I've done articles on this. Antarctica, arguably 107 went down to Antarctica about, 6 months or a year ago. And 100 people went down there from all over Earth. And they went and had a meeting. The meeting was with an AI. It was in a box that was talking to them, giving them orders about what was going to happen in the future and how they had to get along in certain ways and, fighting others and so on and so forth. So this is not idle curiosity or just a nice story. It's actually happening right now. And you cannot hide your head in the sand or go even into the backwoods somewhere and build a cabin and think you're going to be isolated, because you're not. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying, they are trying to get to all of us. So when they say they got a cure for cancer, what is the one disease that is gigantic that everyone would line up, even though they now know not to line up for COVID. They know that, well, they'll probably take the cancer vax because what the hell, right? You're going to get it, or you're going to have it, or you're going to whatever.
You know what? This is, I want to connect another dot for you why it's called Project Stargate. So a friend of mine brought this to my attention. We've all seen Stargate SG-1. There's an episode where humans make a deal with the Ashen, a human-looking race of ETs, because they have an AI vaccine that not only heals you, but prolongs your life. So the whole the whole planet becomes healed essentially. But what they don't realize until it's too late is they've all become sterile. They can't have babies anymore. So in the episode, what they do is go back in time through the Stargate and leave themselves a warning not to make a deal with this race. And they change the timeline. It's almost like a nod to that.
True.
Yeah. It's like a nod to that episode.
Yeah.
Project Stargate. So maybe we've gone back in time and we're adjusting something. I don't know, but because Daryl James, who's another secret space program whistleblower, he said the whole thing is time travel cat and mouse. He goes, that's how this war is being fought. That's what he calls it, time travel cat and mouse.
And there's evidence that Barron is a time traveler, and so is Trump.
Yeah.
And actually, all of us are, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
So there's multiple realities simultaneous. There's multiple dimensions simultaneous, and a lot of these are like alternative universes right alongside each other. And sometimes you can go visit, and I have done that myself. Which is actually, I had one night after I met 107 in person, a couple months after that. It was in April of that year, which I think might have been 2021. Not sure because I get my years wrong. But anyway, just say for that. And I had all dreams the entire night long from the time I went to sleep and then into the early morning. And I was shown by 107 how he did his disguise, every detail about it. I talked to Trump. I was involved with, I had a year of dreams following up this night of dreams about Trump and 107 and the future. And I see the future. I have future. This motivates a lot of the things I do. So, and I have seen the future I have seen come true. Okay. So I thought I was viewing the win of 2020 where Trump didn't win. And I thought, oh, my dream was wrong. And then I realized that actually what I was seeing was 2024. And so this whole time, my dream showed me the exodus leaving of all the aliens, the ancient aliens leaving, going down like Highway 5 in Southern California with all their belongings leaving. So that's what I was shown. So then I thought, well, Trump is going to win. But what I didn't realize it was going to be, 2 years later. So it's, how it is with dreams and visions. You don't always get the timing right.
Right.
And you don't always interpret it exactly right. You can have the right information, but if you don't read it right, then there could be error. Now, so I've already seen this movie. And there's other things I've seen in the near future that I'm waiting to see if they're going to happen. Okay. I haven't told everyone about them, so-and-so.
Right.
But anyway, I have told some people. So I'm just saying that yes to the timeline thing, yes to jumping timelines, yes to, time travel in essence, and so on and so forth. So yes, that's all part of this. So they killed Suchir Balaji again because he was blowing the whistle on violating copyright. But you have to understand something. What these databases are that Masayoshi and Oracle and Trump are going to build in Texas, they are going to attempt, I believe, to rival the secret space program. They are building an AI to rival the secret space program AIs and alien AIs that are incoming right now. Like over 5 years ago, Mark Richards says we have 6 alien AI invading our planet right then, and they do not have our best interests at heart, so to speak.
Right.
And so you can guess this is 5 years later, how many more we already have invading. Plus, I have another whistleblower who basically, and more than one, who has told me there's one AI that runs Earth. There's one AI that runs Mars. And there's an AI that runs our entire solar system and beyond. And that actually gets into Betelgeuse and this pulse that came from Betelgeuse that interfered with that AI being in charge. And that's part of the reason everyone was brought down to Antarctica. And that's a whole story in itself that we probably don't have time for, but it is actually on my Substacks. I put tons of stuff in there because what happened was about a little over a year ago, I couldn't even access my own website because they attacked me so much that it was getting insane. So I just went on to Substack, said, fuck it, I'll start writing articles there and putting videos there because I can't get into my own. My webmaster was never available. People I hired couldn't handle it. It's just been a saga.
Right.
So right now I have a team that I'm hoping is going to be able to handle my website. But these are the kinds of things I deal with where they're just fucking with me constantly.
Right.
So I never know when will be the next, thing they'll try to do to me.
Mhm.
They've tried to kill me, In the
Sure.
early days of Camelot, we had flat tires all the time.
Mhm.
And so if you drive fast in the freeway, you're supposed to go out of control and die. Luckily that never happened to us, but we did, kind of lose control and have to come over to the side of the freeway. That happened to us numerous times in the early days. And then one time we went to the top of Grindelwald in the Swiss Alps in this old station wagon. This is back in the very early days of Camelot. And we were interviewing whistleblowers in person, driving around Europe in this old Audi station wagon that had been checked out. And we got to the top of what's called Grindelwald, which is this windy road in the Alps, just a 2-lane little road. And the whole wheel fell off, not just the tire, the wheel fell off the car. And we took it to the garage and they said, oh, it's a clean cut. So we have had stuff where they did try to kill us, but it didn't work. I've had death threats, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they say if they want to kill you, they really will kill you. If they're just trying to scare you and shut you up, then they will miss. Like Trump, by the way, hello, because that was an indicator other people don't agree with me, but I am positive that is the Illuminati's way of giving Trump a warning, telling him they can get to him anytime, anywhere. They better just do what they tell him. So this is the next Rubicon for people to recognize, and that I'm sort of beating the drum about right now, which is that Trump and the White Hats are in control of a certain amount of stuff. He has a certain amount of the military on his side, but he has tons of the military that hate his guts and actually have been paid by not Rockefeller, but Rothschild. And they're generals and they're pissed off because they don't have the money they used to get from the generals. And so there's all kinds of machinations behind the scene going on, political game playing and, things that they have to deal with. So this is not just smooth sailing just because they got in office.
Yeah. I actually agree with that. And Aaron, did you have any questions or any comments before?
There's a million directions you could go from all this, but
just one last thing on my article. I do want to draw your attention to a paragraph where I talk about the Cybertruck bomber, whose name was Matthew Live Less Burger. Of all the fucking last names, I don't know where they came up with that one, but nonetheless, Live Less Burger. So he says on that document that was called his manifesto, he didn't write. Okay, he might have written it under duress and they changed some of the stuff. But basically, the very bottom, it said that he had access to UAPs and the USAP programs. What that means that nobody seemed to pay attention to, except me, is that he not only was an expert on drones, but he had above top secret clearances. So he wasn't just your average little, terrorist person with some problem with his mind. He was what I call, a sleeping abductee, basically a Manchurian candidate, possibly. But he was also apprehended when his signal, the code on his signal on his phone changed.
Yeah.
And from there on, I think he was in there, he was either owned by the FBI or taken over by the CIA. But this guy was not just your average guy. And there's no way he's dead, because he was what you call an asset that was, had very, very high clearances. And there's no way they would have just thrown him away. So whatever they've done with him, reprogram, whatever, he's probably not dead. And he also didn't drive the car into the Trump Hotel. I think that was someone else. Elon told them they have video of him filling out the car with, electricity, whatever that, but they don't show you it, do they?
No.
You have it, but it didn't go public, did it? Hello. So of course it's not him.
So what are your thoughts?
I had a psychic experience. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just have to get through this really quickly. So I stayed in the Trumps 2 nights before the cyber attack with the truck. I woke up screaming, which I've never done in my entire life, screaming and screaming. My partner at the time, friend of mine, grabbed me, okay, and had to wake me up and say, Kerry, it's okay. And I was seeing glass and metal, and I thought I was in an explosion in the Trump Hotel 2 nights prior to when it happened. So it does appear, and I've written all about this and stuff, that I had, a psychic premonition of the attack. But what I didn't see, and this is why I'm a little concerned about it, is that I didn't see a car blowing up. I saw the Trump Hotel blowing up.
Interesting.
Just saying. So, I mean, you could hope that the car was the thing I saw, and it probably was, but I'm just saying a detail, because when you remote view, you do want to look at those details to make sure how right you are. And I never saw the car as part of it.
Do you think sometimes people pick up on different timelines that end up not playing out? And that's why, because there were people that had lots of things on the inauguration that just happened. Like they saw before they even just made the public announcement that's going to be inside of a hockey arena, people were getting Trump is going to get assassinated in a hockey arena and things like that. And then they said, oh, we're moving it into a hockey arena after people had already said that. So I wonder if that was like a different timeline that played out that they were picking up on, that it ended up getting changed somehow, where obviously he didn't get assassinated.
Yes, obviously that happens. I mean, but it also happens that you can be accurate. Okay.
Right.
And there also might be extenuating circumstances saying that hasn't happened yet. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's not always as cut and dried news you might think.
Right.
In this timeline even. But and there may be some future things that they saw. They thought it was the inauguration, but it wasn't the inauguration. It's going to be some other event,
True. Could be that.
And I keep seeing future events. So I'm not going to talk about all that.
Well, always trust your intuition. I mean, that's
yeah. So I'm just saying that's very woo-woo, but it's very true as well. So it really happened, and I had a witness.
Right.
So I thought I woke up the whole Trump Hotel. And the following nights, we left there when it actually happened, and we're staying at the Bellagio, because that was my plan all along, to go for the first 3 nights. We're going to do the Trump because I love the Trump. But then on New Year's, I wanted to be in the central location because they closed down the traffic. And so I didn't want to be far away from the action. So we went to the Bellagio, which absolutely front and center for the New Year's, which ended up to be the right thing to do.
You were probably there doing some sort of astral mission the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. You were probably guided there. I mean,
yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
Well, it was the first time I've ever spent New Year's in Vegas. So it was fun, but it was also, I was like, can I really afford this? This is costing a huge amount of money. I kept fluctuating. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? But then in the end, I did it.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. So I think, to end this on a positive note, I do think like there is a white hat effort, and we know that, but it's not that black and white. There's going to be moves and counter moves, and it's not going to be it's not like game, set, and match, right? We are still in this. It's not over, and we are still at war with the deep state. There's not,
and it's way more complicated, and there's way more layers going on than most people can even fathom, I think. And there's, like we already talked about, time travel. There's AI,
dimensions,
ETs, dimensions. There's
AI,
all this stuff going on.
Human-derived AI that is actually reverse engineering AI, probably, and alien AI, and alien AI coming in, and aliens are AI. A lot of them, are nothing but AI.
Right.
Little bodies are like the Greys or AI, little walking computers and shit.
Right.
So some of them. So yeah, it's it really is. Our lives are a sci-fi movie, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Yeah, that's like the real reality, and what we think is the real reality is actually the complete false Truman Show reality that we're sold, and they want us to keep believing that. But the real reality is all this so-called crazy woo-woo stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. They want you to care about, Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl. So
yeah. Right. And 3D level politics.
And meanwhile, she's programming people to be Satanists. I mean, this goes on. Okay. This shit is real.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. That happens. She's overtly like anti-Trump and that whole movement, and her audience is young girls, you know. So what
Yeah.
is that doing to the whole next generation that, you know, buys into what she says? They follow her, they dress
But
like
she's
her.
not all dark. That's the other thing.
I believe
You
that
have to
too.
understand, she was brought up. Her father is like Levy or whatever. his
Anton
last
LaVey.
name. Yeah. I mean, he's like, you know, I mean, the biggest Satanist out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
the
she
king of
looks
the
exactly like
Satanists.
his wife.
I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, so you know, there's all kind of extenuating, you know, you get a layer. That's why the layer, you know, the truth is different at every level, but it's basically like the layers of the onion. You
Mhm.
peel
Yeah.
one layer away, you're going to get another one. And it's very important to do that because you may think you've got the full truth and you don't have a very important piece. And so in my job, I have learned, I mean, in a sense, as an explorer or a researcher, an investigator, you have to have a certain degree of humility. And another thing you need to not do is let a religious overlay dictate what you should think and
Right.
feel,
Yeah.
because that is programming.
A lot of people are stuck in that.
You have to get rid of the programming in order to see clearly. So
Absolutely.
just saying.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
This has been absolutely fascinating. I want to encourage everybody to go to your Substack or your email list and read the articles, watch the videos, and, you know, subscribe to your Telegram. I know you're on X sometimes. Just go follow her everywhere you can. We'll put those links in the description.
Thank
And
you. Yeah.
is there any last words you'd like to leave us with before we say goodbye?
No, I think that understanding that one of the things that I find with my colleagues, their limitations that bothers me, and other people that are supposed to be so smart and so good, is they choose what they want to see. So they have chosen, like there's a whole group of them that want like kumbaya, golden age, blah, blah, blah. And so when they get other information that doesn't jive with that, they just kick it out.
Mhm.
Okay. So they're programming themselves in a sense to see
Yeah.
a certain future. And
Yeah.
when you are like a negative person, I know certain people that are super negative, and
Mhm.
all they will do is tell me negative things. They never say one thing positive in their whole lives.
Yeah.
But each serves a purpose, right? And they're both trying to be truthers, and they're trying to tell, you know, what they see and all that stuff. But the trouble is you have to take your choice out of it and basically look and see clearly and allow for light and dark, because yin and yang is always operational.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well said.
Absolutely. Well said.
Words.
The ego forms a core belief and identity with that, and it holds on for dear life to be right. And anything, like you said, doesn't drive with that. Nope, that can't possibly be true.
And religion is like a security blanket.
Religion is very much so.
God loves me. He's going to save me. Okay. But meanwhile, look at all the people that have been murdered, even
Right.
just
That being
yesterday, let alone North Carolina.
Now, that being said, there is a core truth within all religions, and that's the true spirituality. But then there's all the distortions and dogma that
But
get thrown
understanding
in
that
with that.
death and life, you know, it's not a football game, guys. You know,
Right.
Right.
you know, it's much deeper than that. And there are, when you actually look back at the things that you might have called negative in your own life, you know, what some people call negative greetings, then you find out there's something really positive happened as a result. For example, I was working my way up the ladder in Hollywood to become a producer, and I hit a glass ceiling, and that's what drove me to pick up a camcorder and go this route and become an alternative journalist, investigating with documentaries and so on. I didn't want to do documentaries. I wanted to make movies. Okay. So, but you would not be having me on your show right now if I had gotten, you know, the good, you know, help to go where I thought I wanted to go.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
absolutely. We can all look back in our lives and see like all of the worst, our darkest moments actually built us,
and you don't realize it at the
and
time.
shaped us into who we are. And like, oh, that would have never, I wouldn't be here if that really bad thing didn't happen.
Right. And you're like, I'm so glad I didn't get my way back then, because all this amazing stuff.
So glad I didn't get that guy that I liked at the time, because he's a complete, you know, psycho or whatever.
Right.
Type of thing.
Right.
absolutely.
Exactly. Blessings in disguise. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this was absolutely fantastic. Thanks again for joining
us. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for tuning in. And just a reminder, our conference is coming up in May. If anyone wants to grab a ticket, May 12th through the 15th, Grafton, Illinois, journeytotruth.online. Grab a ticket, come hang out with us. There's live stream passes available as well. And all the other information is on the website. So go subscribe to our Kerry stuff. And we need all the support and help we can get right now, because this is 0 hour. I mean, we are literally, this moment right now is why we came to this planet. So let's, we got to be there.
On deck,
yeah, be there for each other. All hands on deck. Yep.
To activate.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We love you. And until next time, have a great evening. Good night.